Welcome to AEC Stories. This is former SM3 Dempsey of the USS Mount Hood. And today I've got my buddy who I used to hang out with and have a lot of wild times and some professional times back on the USS Mount Hood. This is RM3 Deborde from Indiana.
Hey, how you doing, everybody?
Hey. So you've been hearing my podcast. Some of you guys, I got to catch you with a microphone in a phone booth to get a podcast going, but it's okay.
I'm a holdout. I should have been one of the first ones. It's been a wacky year, but I'm glad we got to hang out back in June for our reunion, and I look forward to another reunion with my family, my family of Gulf War, Mount Hood vets, and other veterans, of course. Any veterans is family to me.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Greg, because when we did have our reunion, it was majority people that were in the Gulf War together that showed up at the reunion. And I think war creates a bond. I'm sure there's Army soldiers that go through the same thing, and Marines, and different people that served in those types of situations. But what made you pick the Navy?
Well, my grandpa was in the Army. He was a land guy, MP, World War II, and he was the closest I knew to that as family. Met my grandmother, but he didn't get to go overseas. Well, a lot of them did in World War II, but I got a buddy that I went to school with, was already advanced, already in the Navy about 6 months before me, and took me down to Jacksonville, Florida, to the base, and get me a taste of it. Got to go to the barracks, got to eat at the chapel line, and it was really cool, man. I was out on the beach, women galore, sun, fun, young. I think I'm 17, and I was going to IUPUI, which is Indiana University, Purdue University, for a couple of years, and after that, he said, man, you're going to do that, and here's a taste of it, and the Navy was calling me, and I took the ASVAB and scored pretty well. I was supposed to do electronics, but they didn't have a school opening for me, so they did me on delayed entry program, which was a 6-month, it was like a year. Matter of fact, it was a year program. I was still in school, still in college, and so I went in, had the big TS, top secret clearance stuff. It was big dog. It was a hard school to go through. A school was, because it was crash course, slam dunk. Either you pass or you fell, and if you fell, you go to the bottom of the barrel and do the old sweep the deck for a living type thing. I guess you don't have like a step job. But it was cool. I'm glad I got to do it, or I've never met you, and I've never been on the beautiful USS Mount Hood. Started out in San Diego boot camp, called it Sand Dog. And I did the A school there, boot camp, A school.
Where?
From there I got up to Concord, Naval Weapons Station, and, there it was all I knew, pretty much.
Well, let me backtrack with you for a sec, Greg. What did you think about boot camp? Was it what you expected in San Diego?
It was. It wasn't a way. I was young, so it was cool because I was like 18, 19, because I graduated at 17. And I was in good shape because I cleaned up my act the whole year before I went in, and was focused. And I was really focused because this was a big journey for me. Midwestern guy leaving Indianapolis, Indiana. I'd been around, I'd traveled before, but leaving long term, maybe never to come back to the state of Indiana. Well, eventually to visit, but never to live. And so I was focused. It was, heck, I got bronchitis in there. I mean, it was either they said you get set back a couple weeks, lay it down, or take a shot in the rear with it was like a gel shot. They always poking and prodding, but it was a gel shot, and I kept going the same day, man. And it was on. I made it through and cut me 248, and it was cool.
Did your recruiter push you towards an A school, or did you have an idea what you wanted? How did you end up becoming a radioman?
Well, I had electronics degree deal, associates from Purdue, IUPUI, and they knew I scored high enough to be in an A school, so that was a big deal for them. And they slotted me into the nearest closest thing to electricity. They might have buffaloed me, I don't know, because, I'm on the other side. I was young. young kid. I was shooting for to repair the stuff, not really operate it as much. I mean, I did get to repair the teletypes, which is keyboard stuff, ancient talk. But I got my hands on, and I became a supervisor.
So you're talking like becoming your thought was sort of to become an ET, like a high tech electronics technician that would work on all the classified stuff, right?
Yeah, that's what I was told. Sorry about that. So I was told by the recruiter, look, you get to work with your electronics. You get to repair some stuff. You go to A school, is what they feed you, it's cool. It's exciting, you get a top secret clearance, by the way. That's the highest you can pretty much get.
Yeah.
In that form or fashion. So you guys sold me, I'm like, oh gosh, I've never been that important, being a kid.
Makes sense.
and so, so I went for it, and it was cool. It worked out well. I mean, I got to move up pretty fast, being I was good at what I did, and became a supervisor, as you know, and especially during the Gulf War, that was a very trying time, being that we rotated, hardly had any time off. I mean, it was a 12 on, 12 off, if even that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, you got to see the bad news. You got to see the classified news, like, oh shoot, we're in danger. But you couldn't tell anybody on the ship because of your clearance and the communications, or you would know of things because you were privy because of your job. And you get to see a lot of stuff that was going on behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, that was it. Need to know basis. You route them out, start from the captain on down, and you get so good that you know who to route what department to. But all department heads got to know what's going on with the ship's command, what's going on. So a lot of stuff. It wasn't need to know for us, but we were in the same fleet, so we had to know. It was also fun getting the news, because a lot of guys knew that I knew the sports and stuff, and that was one thing that kept us going, was the sports, or current events, and so that was a good deal. I could grab up a copy and put it off there with the guys through our window there, and that's window, and that was cool. Made guys feel like they were home a little bit, because they were always asking what to score, especially during playoff times, football, basketball, baseball, whatever. Yeah,
you gotta have your specialty, right? Like, if you're the cook, you can get someone a little extra ice cream. If you're the mail guy, get someone their mail quicker. You're the barber, you get the cool haircut. So you're the radioman, you get the sports score. Like, I can hook you up on the sports because we didn't have computers and all the cool stuff they have now, right?
Exactly. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have any other way to touch out to the world or anything. It was at the mercy of the radioman communications. That was the only communication. And yourself, you were a signalman, so you got hands-on stuff too. You got to deal with a lot of. We were both communication guys, so a lot of guys liked us. Just the simple fact of what we did, and we were cool dudes, I thought too.
I would say we're pretty much cool dudes. I mean, you went to San Diego, and if you remember, I partied at that EM club. You were there before me. I went there for Ref Tray later, but San Diego, this was when the movie Top Gun was in its highlight, and it had that feel, because I think they filmed at that EM club, right? They filmed some.
Yeah, you're right, man. When my mom and them came to, they already knew about it before they were up on it, but my mom, my aunt, and her friends, my grandma, and all them came. And they went into the building where they filmed that scene in the restroom, and it showed, hey, Top Gun was filmed here. There was a plaque, like a bronze plaque or whatever. Yeah, it was pretty cool, man. Got to also go to Seal Beach. We stayed in Hotel Del Coronado. That was pretty cool, man. I had a good backing with my family. And they came, we had a room when they graduated from boot camp. And I walked at Seal Beach where they trained, and pretty scary too. It was real quiet and silent. I was waiting for a guy to jump out of the sand at any minute and go, what the hell are you doing here, boy?
Well, Hotel Del, that's a very beautiful, famous, Del Coronado, very famous hotel that they even make movies of Navy SEAL training there, because the SEALs run on that beach. And that's where they do a lot of their training. They get them doing that sand, the surf and sand kind of stuff, where they get in those boats and get wrecked by the waves and have them running and diving in the water and rolling in the sand like sugar cookies, right?
I was like freaking out because I was on the big dune that they had the barricades, so you just can't walk down the beach and go, oh, there's the SEAL training camp. No, it was like a 30-foot, 40-foot dune blockade. I climbed up it and I'm looking down like there wasn't a soul around. I'm like, these guys see me. Luckily, I had my little Navy boot camp shorts, the blue Navy shorts, and I was looking probably at my little flat top one, but I probably look like one of them. They probably as long as you don't come over the hill, we'll be all right. It was a weird feeling thinking, oh my God, my own guys can come out after me. They're ready to get me.
I don't think they would have, but you never know what to expect because it's foreign to you. Like just as you're getting familiar with something, like the environment of boot camp gets familiar to you, right? You're like, okay, this is my rack, this is my bed, this is my locker. Okay, this is where I'm at for the next whatever 2.5 months or whatever, right? And then you're off to A school, and A school you had barracks, right? You probably had nice rooms.
On that trip, you just brought to my attention they had a drill with the SEALs. They picked our barrack that day. I never forget it. It was a guy from was he from Brooklyn? He had a New York accent, and he was into KRS-One or BDP, whatever, Boogie Down Productions. And there was the fire alarm going off. And I looked out the window, and these guys are crawling around on the grass. I go, man, that's a freaking SEAL team. They did say there was going to be a drill this weekend. And me and him held in our room. They were going around knocking on the door saying, fire, 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 come out, sucking you out and be a prisoner. And they did the mock prisoner thing, dude, for terrorism, because it was back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, him in the room the whole time and made it do that nonsense fire alarm thing for hours. We snuck out. We went up to where they kept him prisoner, and they were actually doing some crazy stuff. They had mega furniture, mega chairs, mega desks blocking the doors, like a mountain of furniture, and you couldn't get there if you wanted to unless you banged on it and brought attention. And I'm sure the head wasn't going to do that. I didn't want to be part of the nonsense of being a prisoner. So I can proudly say that me and my buddies escaped that prisoner attack, SEAL attack on our own people. Yeah, it was crazy though. I had to stuff our ears with cotton or toilet paper and stick our heads under pillows and crank up the radio or something just to blind out the noise of the fire alarm going on for hours on end. That was a trip.
You're talking about. I know specifically what you're talking about, Greg. You're talking about Red Cell. And that's what Dick Marcinko, the founder of SEAL Team 6, used to do. And Red Cell drills were, they would, attack a base, mock attack. And it was to test the base's security, you know what I mean? Test the shore patrol, the master at arms, the, rapid, security force and all that different stuff. And, they used to Red Cell. He has a book, if you pick it up, it's called Red Cell. And they would get into bases everywhere, man, and they would go and show you, hey, we dressed up as this, and we came in the door, and we had 3 guys in the trunk, and then bada bing. And, it was funny because you're playing within the rules, but they're not. You know what I mean?
They had real weapons. I mean, I'm sure they probably weren't loaded, but, hey, you get a gun to it. They were making people strip down to their underwear, doing dog tricks, do this, do that. I could hear them through the door, dude. That's how close we were to them without them finding us out. Yeah.
Wow.
We crawled in that passageway on our hands and knees, like on our bellies, through our training to be not seen, movement. Because there was a glass window on the other side with curtains. And anytime somebody could stuck their head through that curtain and seen us, if we messed up. But yeah, I could hear them telling them, ordering them what, and they were speaking Arabic or Middle Eastern, and ordering them to do training them so if they were a prisoner of war.
Yeah.
Well, fine. Yeah, it was going on for real.
You're talking about they're speaking Farsi and they're in there. I mean, there's a book. The guy is really interesting. I mean, first people thought you're crazy, and you know what? There's a lot more. The culture is a little softer now. Not to say that they're softer at war or anything, but I'm just saying what's acceptable and what they were doing. I mean, today, dude, it would be there's YouTube videos. They're smacking people around or shoving their faces in mattresses, yelling at them. You know, so I think some people might. I'm not saying they did, but I don't know if I saw something about waterboarding. I'm not making that accusation, but what they did is they put people in a real world scenario. You know.
Exactly what it was, and it was scary on that other side of the door because I thought, man, if they catch us, we're really going to be toast because we escaped for a few hours, and they're going to make us look like the example.
Yeah.
So I told him, I said, hey, I can't remember his name for nothing, but I remember his face. I said, we better get back in this room, dude, or we're going to be hit. They're going to catch us, and soon enough, because they would send a search party down in P-Ways to see if anyone was snooping around. They were on patrol.
Well, it's funny because you've got Navy SEAL guys coming in there, seeing if, first of all, they're testing you on general orders and all that stuff. And you know what I mean? That's one thing. Secondly, they're penetrating security and they're showing that, how strong the base is. Of course, all bases have been really upped in security over the years, ever since things like, whether it be the USS Cole, a ship in a foreign port, or, other base situations, because, base security, initially it was just a deterrent, but all the military is scaled up. Like, there's sensors, there's everything. There's like, you're not just going to run into a base and get away with it.
I looked at it this way. I think they were seeing who was the strongest out of the bunch because we were top secret people and we held a lot of knowledge. And the Walker brothers were one of the things that changed a whole lot of that top secret communications for radio. They were, it was actually father and son. They called them Walker brothers. They sold the information to the Russians at KWR-37. I can remember us going out on deck. I actually had a couple dinner quarters because nobody was supposed to see the equipment while we sledgehammered it to bit and the equipment and all the cryptology stuff that fed into it to run it. So they changed the whole aspect, and I think they were testing to see who was the tough guy who would spit talk, so to speak, and give up the information off the bat, and he would, give just basic information. I think they were testing that a lot, and so they could where to station you.
Yeah, you talk about OPSEC, about keeping stuff classified, right? I mean, we'll go to the edge, but not all the way, right? I mean, you're talking about John Walker spy ring. I'm looking at it online. The U.S. Navy's biggest betrayal. So they were messing with transmission equipment and stuff like that the Navy had to change because of them. And it's because we would have those if they get that stuff into the hands of the Russians and those little ships that they would have, those trawlers, those AGI. All they got to do is I get your microphone frequency. You're talking on a walkie-talkie. Oh, we get their channel now, and now we can just listen to them, right?
Exactly. Well, they had the same crypto gear because we had to change it twice a day, and it was a piece of paper that had a bunch of, it was our own information, but the other side had to have the same thing. But if they knew exactly what we were putting in at the same time, they could feed it into their piece of equipment, and they can read what we're saying because it was garbled. If you didn't have it, it was garbled talk. It would sound like just random fish talk. It didn't sound right. And but if you had the right other end of it, then it was just normal like we're talking now.
That's yeah. I guess that guy died. I just looked online. That was a big story. I didn't really I guess it made some national news. I don't think a lot of people read into it. They didn't understand how that pertained to us. But we, part of our jobs in operations was to keep stuff plausible, like neither confirm or deny, give no information, because, people want to know, where's your ship going? What's it doing? What's it got? And we're not going to give that up. And, that was, what if we had everything on theirs GPS? You know what I mean? But so, I mean, that's just one thing. And, working in the job that you had, you're one of the few people that knows that I went and worked, in Malaysia, and I did some undercover stuff that I was told to do, because you're the only one that saw it. The rest of the ship can't know about it or believe it and think I'm some,
At the time, no.
No.
At the time, what was that, 25 years ago, right?
Right.
Yeah, I got a book for you, too, by the way. It's a Kuwait Liberation book I've been saving for you with the DVD. I meant to tell you that. I got to send it off to you. I was given it to you by the BFW headquarters of Indiana. out to you. But
Talks about some of the action. Well, I didn't. We worked in operations together, and we're not giving away anything that had put us in any trouble. But I would compete with you guys in radio because I had my shortwave and I was getting BBC of the war while we're floating in the Gulf.
I remember those nights with you under the stars.
Right.
When everybody else was secluded out, and you would pick up on every, besides what I knew and what you knew, we would get the underground movement.
Right.
Shortwave radio, yeah.
Yeah.
Access.
When we were heading out to the Gulf, I think we hit Guam, and I went and looked at the PX exchange or whatever, Navy exchange, and I saw this boom box and it had like 5 kinds of shortwave bands or whatever. And I go, I don't care that it's the best sounding boom box. I don't care that it's got the best cassette rewind or whatever. All I care about is that it gets these these different frequencies of radio, so I can get some radio, because I knew damn well that you were not going to be getting, hey, it's Camille and it's Rick James. I knew we were not going to pull that FM station, having lived overseas.
Camille. Good old Camille. Yeah, I know. It did bring us a little closer in touch too, and it was like a release for us. I remember, like, it was after midnight, between midnight and 7 in the morning. You'd be pulling the mid shift, and I would probably be getting on for. You could take a break, and I'd come up and hang out with you, and we'd do some big eyes.
Yeah.
Which was big binoculars, basically big eyes.
Yeah.
You could see about anything miles away.
Yeah, I use those big eyes a lot, man. They've definitely have a lot of faith in them. They're my favorite radar.
You guarded them like they were your couple satchel, man, like your weapon. Because I tell you, don't touch them.
Yeah. Well, those were such a huge tool, man. I mean, if you go back. Big eyes, I use them to spot bad guys. Big eyes, I used them to spot a mine. Big eyes were there. But then there was also our infrared gear, too. That helped at night, But I guess on a silly note, we had some of those infrared goggles, the ones you pull over with the 2 eyes, You wear them on your head. And I would love it on a pitch black night. I'd have somebody that was a bit of a pain in the ass or something, or someone I just wanted to mess with. And when you come out of the ship and it's all, darkened out, right? It's all red lights only, red running lights, you don't, in the Navy, you don't leave the ship lit up at night like, ta-da, we're a cruise ship,
Not at all. Don't dare light a cigarette or light a lighter either. No, don't do that.
Well, it was funny because I'd have those, when you come out from inside the ship and you go outside the ship at night, it's pitch black. And it takes you about 5 to 10 minutes to get your night vision on, right? And so you can start seeing little things in the dark, silhouettes and all that. So I'd wait for someone to come out, and they would be feeling their way up and down the ladder, like trying to find the wall, the bulkhead, the whatever, railing. And
because you can hear those waves within a few feet, maybe 10 feet, you could be over the side of that ship and never be seen again. And the way our ship was set up, there's all kinds of places you could fall off and be not seen again. The flight deck,
yeah,
the 04 level where I was, was it 06 level where you were? Yeah.
There was I couldn't really fall off there that hard into the sea. I don't think I'd have to be standing on the ledge, but I think the flight deck, we did have nets. But on some of the smaller ships, more so than even ours, like a frigate or something, they were very, some of those more slim profile, lower to the water ships.
Right.
You could definitely fall overboard, especially in waves. But back to the infrared, I remember, I think it was Primka or somebody, my fellow signalman, and he's coming up and he's feeling around like a guy in the dark, like he'd had too many beers, even though he's sober, but he's just like trying to find his bearings, right?
Grabbing metal, but there's nothing to grab onto.
He's just reaching, and I've got these. I'm like the guy from the Hannibal Lecter #1 movie. I have the eyes that going wee, putting out that pitch, that high tone pitch from the infrared. And he's coming up there, and I'm standing there on the side of the signal bridge, and I'm like, tapping him on the back of his head, and he's turning around, swatting at something. I'm ducking, and I'm pushing him, and he's like, he can't, he doesn't know what's attacking him. That was always a good time. But you know, good.
I used to love going out there though when it was pitch dark, kept blackout, and looking on the side and seeing the. There was something about the buildup on the side of the ship that would, with the friction of the water in the ship, would put off this illumination.
Seaweed.
What was it?
It was like a phosphorus type seaweed. When it hit the ship in the water, it glowed.
I think it's plankton. It builds up.
Yeah.
On the side of the ship, and when it hits the side where you're moving it through it, then it has a tendency to light up. It gives it like an illuminate deal, and it was really cool. And especially too when daylight, you see the dolphins or porpoises chase with you.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. Also, I remember we went to Canada, BC, British Columbia, and Victoria, and we went up that channel, man. It was nothing like it. I got up, it was early, sun just coming up, it was foggy, none but pine trees on each side of the channel, and big old orca killer whales were going right along with this. There was a whole, and it was really awesome, man. With the smell, I'll never get that fresh smell, man. It was such an awesome.
That was a beautiful. I know exactly what you're saying. I was going to say killer whales. You beat me to it. I saw them just floating around. They looked as docile as dolphins. I'm like, why do they call them killer whales? But there's a reason. But then there'd be big old logs and timber just floating down that waterway too. It was like really unique, man. It was really cool.
It was so serene and so silent for being on a vessel like that, thinking, oh, we're on a floating bomb. We're down the middle of this nice, serene, peaceful channel. It's like we were doing the Victoria thing, and then we were doing Portland, weren't we?
We did Victoria. We did Victoria twice. We did Portland before the second trip to Victoria.
Right. Portland was our actual where we're named after, Mount Hood. So they did the. That's where I got to see B.B. King with you too. That Jazz Fest. That was pretty cool. It was Jazz Fest, and we got tours on the boat for the locals.
That was.
We were all full for that. We should have had a museum set up there for that. But, I guess the key.
Well, it was interesting because we gave a flag to Griffith, who's from Oregon. Remember EW2 Griffith, electronic warfare specialist, right? And he's in one of the podcasts. He took that flag and gave it to the fire station over there of the Mount Hood. So that was really cool. Nice. Yeah. But, we went there after Desert Storm. We did a little parade. We were there for the Jazz Festival or the Blues Festival downtown Portland, which is, you could see the Mount Hood parked in front of the Mount Hood behind us, the big mountain.
Oh, yeah. Yes, that was awesome.
That was a crazy, that was a very clean, beautiful city, Portland, Oregon. And I went back there. I was there like a year ago with my wife. We were checking it out. We was like, let's see if we want to move here. But it was too cold and stuff, and we're kind of spoiled by the bay, so we're like, but if you go there in summertime, you might want to move there, right?
Exactly.
So, what was your favorite port of all the ports?
Man, there were so many. Of course, Hawaii is going to be the thing because it's such a tropical deal. But, we love the Philippines because it was just like a poor man's dream. Yeah,
I think, we're not even talking bad about the Philippines, even though they knew we're a bunch of wild disco dancers over there. Huh? Hammer. We did some, MC Hammer dancing at the nightclubs in PI. But, when we were stationed in the States, before you and I got married and got housing and all that and get off the ship, we lived in that tiny little Navy rack, that little metal bed, and people can type in Navy rack, Google it online, and see what that looks like if they've never been on a ship. We did not have a lot of personal space. We basically had half of a phone booth to ourselves.
That's smaller than a jail cell.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We did the smart thing, you and I. We grabbed up and we figured we're going to go in dry dock because whenever we went in dry dock, our propeller, rudder,
it
was flopping and sending shockwaves to the ship, and that was pretty scary being out in the middle of the ocean. I think between Guam and Philippines, it busted, and we had no steering.
Yeah.
So we started down to Philippines and went dry dock, and that was a pretty cool deal. Got to see a ship out of water and learned a lot. And you and I grabbed up a couple bungalows.
Well, you know, that was for me because I grew up overseas. I think some guys were a little shy about talking to the locals, and it's funny when we would get off in different ports, people would go, "Dempsey, where am I going?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's my first time in Hong Kong, but I'm just going to act as if and figure this out." You know.
We fit in really well. Well, because we had me and you. We knew what was going on. We kind of had a map of it. We knew what to do, where to go, what places to go to. Because I was ready. I knew the safe zones. I knew where to go. We were kind of like the guides of what to do. And that's what was good about operations. We kind of were like the eyes and ears of the rest of the ship. We really were.
You know, I liked what I liked about, you know, because living in Concord, we like to go out and go to nightclubs and dance with women and drink a lot and just go wild. We would blow our paycheck in a day and a half, 2 days, because we didn't get paid that much. You know.
The only time we felt like we were big timers is when we were out to sea for a month, couple checks under the belt, a month or two, and come back in. Man, you felt like a big time young guy there, you know, and it was all hands on deck then, because you never let the other man down. Like, oh, I got you. Come on, we're all family here. I remember going into a nightclub. There'd probably be 50, 60 of us, and we wouldn't be all together in a group, of course. We got sick of each other, of course, because we work together, live together type thing. But we might break down into groups of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But boy, something would go down. You would see real quick who the bigger family was.
Yeah, the Mount Hood is renowned for throwing down. Mount Hood versus the world. But, that's just everybody letting off their steam, even though we're on the same team. It's just... that would happen, but what I was trying to get to is like, okay, Concord, I get on the BART, take the ship's van, go party in San Francisco at City Nights. I'm getting $280 every 2 weeks, right? I run through that $280 in 2 days, and now I got $40 to make it for 2 weeks, right?
Because we pretty much moved along the same pattern together. We started out at E1, moved up to I think we got E2 for a couple months, and went to E3 for a minute.
Yeah.
And we made E4 real quick. We both made it to E5.
Well, we both got P and 8 on that.
Dude, never heard of it in my life until I got it. It said passed, but not advanced. I'm like, what the heck is this about?
That happened twice.
Yeah, and got to be in a certain percentage. I'm like, basically, it means they're only going to let a few out advance at their own pickings. Okay, gotcha. So you got to do a little bit more time in to get your advance.
I mean,
we moved up pretty quick. Remember E-SWAS?
Yeah.
E-SWAS, you'll get moved up quick. Boy, we struggled with that like crazy to know every aspect of a ship, fire, electrical, everything, dude. If something was to go down, you have to know every aspect of that ship and have it signed off. That was a big deal, E-SWAS. And I remember the reason why, because SM2 meter was always, get one of these and you're somebody. And Stroud, all them, get this and you can talk to me.
I wish I had done it back then. I didn't even pursue it. I was like, I don't need your bozo button. But, everything that made your life better through effort was rewarded if you thought about it. But you're like, nah. I mean, we could have been E6s. It's just like we didn't pursue with the feather because we were too busy enjoying the moment. We wanted to get off work. We didn't want to bury our head in a manual. That was our personalities at the time. We're young guys. But, back to the low money, low return, when we go to the Philippines, that $280, shoot, man, you're renting your own townhouse that would cost you more than you're getting paid for a fifth of the money that you make, and you're living like a king, and that's why we like the Philippines. We had the townhouses and, you know what I mean, our own, whatever we wanted.
We were living VIP. Remember we rented a jeepney?
Yeah.
For the ones that don't know what jeepney is, that aren't military, they're jeeps that are cut out in the back with the canopy on the back. Hard shell usually, and jam stereo, usually Pioneer speakers or whatever top line speakers, and you just jamming out with a case of beer, whatever you like to drink with your buddies, and you're in town, just run around the village and going from bar to bar. Jeepney, and then the trikes, right?
Yep.
You can fit two guys on one side, and then the motorcycle, and the other guy, was the driver.
Yeah, you could ride in a sidecar like something out of a Red Baron movie.
I'll never forget Iverson. Our barter of this thing was 20 pesos, which is probably $5 American bucks or something back then, maybe.
Not even.
Not even. But he got all wired up because he was young, drunk, and flipped the damn trike over. The guy said, "No, you pay 40 pesos." He goes, "No, dude, I've been here. It's only 20 pesos. It ain't no 40 pesos, and I ain't paying it." He got out like a monster, and you know how big Iverson was, and just flipped that sucker up. I brushed the guy. I'm like, "Ivy, man, you gotta be cool."
Yeah.
The good old radical days, man. And of course, we bailed away as quick as we could. Even though I didn't do it, but guilty by association type thing, I wasn't bound to. He was calm buddy down, shoot me down.
Well, I remember when you and Iverson reported on board, you're both radiomen, and you guys had walked into the filming of a U2 video. You were seeing Bono. Like, anything could happen in San Francisco where we lived. Like, people were running into crazy stuff, right?
Dude, yeah, it was that bar, Toscani's. I think it was Toscani's. It had Stoli Carollis, which is oysters basically soaking in vodka for as long as possible. So when you do one of those, you better be prepared. But they were lined up, and it was like a bar for undercover actors and directors and producers to go to and not be bothered. And we were told strictly, don't go out and bother them, don't take pictures, don't ask for autographs, which we didn't. But I caught him when he on the way in. I said, "Bono, what's up, man?" He gave me a high five, went back in the back with his bandmate, with his girl, the girls that we're with, and had a few and hung out. I think they ate and bailed on out. Yeah, it was like that. It was like all the time kind of stuff going on. I got to meet Sheila E. and Tony, and Pete Escobedo from Santana. They closed down. It wasn't Hot Rods. It was one in Hayward. Oh my gosh, it's where I met my future. My wife at the time is where I met her, but
yeah.
Those down bars usually when that would come down to it, they had a few stars in there. They just closed the door and whoever was in there, if you was acting decent, I guess you got to stay in. And other than that, no ins or outs.
That's the thing, right? Let's talk about Navy wives. Not all of them, but our experience. Some guys have a great marriage out of it, but the majority don't. And what you find is somebody that meets you at the port, and you take what you can get because you only make $280 every 2 weeks, so you feel like you're broke. So your self-esteem is kind of based on your income. And the first girl that says yes, you think you're in love. And so that's what happened back then. Probably different now. You probably get off your ship with Tinder as a young seaman, and you're like, "Hey, check it out. Swipe right. Ooh, I'm meeting 3 different girls." You have variety. But back. So we took the low-hanging fruit, which was bad for us, like many other guys did, right? We didn't work too hard to get married. It just happened to us. And basically, instead of bashing them, they were just women looking for someone to pay their rent for a couple of years. And that's what it turns out to be in that situation, our situation. Not everybody's, but hey, We were on
the same path because a few of us were on the same path. And not all failed, but, being as young as I was, I had no business getting married at 20 years old. I don't think too many people are having a business getting married. And not at these times in life, maybe back in the day, cowboy days or something, but nowadays, I had no business being married at 20, especially to an older woman.
Yeah.
She wasn't much older, but, she's a little bit more advanced and experienced than I was, and very pretty beautiful woman, but,
yeah, you introduced me to my one of my ex-wives. So
yeah, we worked together. That's how that's usually how it worked, right?
Talk about being lazy and not shopping and not paying attention and not looking for a life partner the right way. Talk about, I'm off the ship. I'm eating food cooked at home. I have cable TV. After living in a metal bed, in a metal room with a metal table and a metal chair, watching a tiny television with 3 channels. It seems like you just went to the Ritz-Carlton. And
you get treated like you're Mr. Somebody because, you're going to go out and do stuff. You got a little bit of money. You're going to go out to eat. You're going to go dancing. And, of course, they're going to romance the stone with you because, you know, that's what they were looking for too, a steady pay, I guess, so to speak. Being a young guy, they could mold you into what they wanted you to be at the time. And being naive at that young age, being from another area of the country, it was all new. I was getting searching for that California dream, you know. I didn't want to give it up.
Right.
You know, you got to make a decision. You're going to stay in. You're going to probably more than likely get transferred out of the area, or, you know, somewhere out of that, you know, what you're used to. And I didn't like change that much in that kind of manner because I didn't want to lose my family anyways. I call family you and my buddy, you know, guys, girls, whatever, because we didn't bring girls on board about the last year and a half we were on board the Mount Hood. So, anyways, you didn't want to give that up. You didn't want to let go of that, like, camaraderie of family, like that backup, man. And when I got out, I lost that camaraderie of backup. And I was like, not back out, but back up. And,
yeah.
It was like, what happened? It was like such a culture shock. I still had that California dream kind of thing going, but when reality set in, it was like, oh, we got a marriage going on here, trying to work on. And it wasn't so easy when you didn't have other party to communicate with, you know. So
yeah. We were young. We were, you know, easily to influence, subject to manipulation. You know, if I had a son going in the Navy right now, I would lay down all my experience on him and say, do with it what you will. You know, that's because let me tell you where Dad made some bad turns. Let me show you what you could do to do it better, right?
Right.
You know, that's just the way I look at it. But I got to say though, Greg, it's like, you know, we travel the world, and then we leave our tribe. The tribe is the people we live and fight and, you know, work with every day in the Navy.
The tribe, right?
Right. And then you get dispersed into the civilian world, and everybody goes on a different path. Some people climb great mountains. Some people hit the bottom of the river. But a lot of people have problems, and it's like also said about PTSD. A lot of people, there's a great guy, Christian Junger, I think is his name, a journalist. He served as a journalist in the wars, and he was there tight with his special forces guys he was working with. But then he came back to the States, and he had a lot of anxiety because he was not with his tribe anymore. You know, and that's what happens.
Lost. I still get that feeling because when I was like last year, 10 months ago, we all got together, 300 or so of us in Oakland for a reunion. That was a great feeling, you know, such an excellent feeling to be back in that. And when you get tossed out at a young age like that and not have any kind of like, hey, this is what you're going to expect. I think it was maybe they had some kind of exit interview out thing for counseling for families. Not even counseling. It was like, oh, here's how you search a job. Here's kind of how you do a resume type thing. It wasn't like, is there anything really wrong with you? You got to be prepared to really tackle the world other than the Navy. You know, you've had these certain people around your life. This is a little different ball game now. You know, and I wasn't really probably ready. I had some hidden issues that wouldn't develop probably until about 10 years after I got out. And unfortunately, it happens to a lot of us. It really does. We store a lot of that old memory base away, and then when we run into trials and tribulations, it comes back.
Yeah.
Through the relationships of failure, you know, and you're like, whoa, what have I done? Who am I really? You know, and then you realize when you start going to the doctors and you're told you should probably get an examination, you know what I mean, PTSD or whatever, and you get told you have it, and you're like, I don't have that. There's nothing wrong with me. But then you look back and go, maybe I do got something.
You go back and look at the wreckage in your path, and you're like, okay, Doc, maybe you're onto something, because I just could never get the car to steer straight ever since.
Exactly. You thought it was good because you never really got in trouble with the law or nothing.
Yeah.
But when you build a relationship, and then you start, you know, anger builds up, and you're dealing with things differently than what you dealt with before, and you just fly off the handle. Yeah, those are problems, man. That's not cool. You know, you be able to talk your way and handle them in a calmer way than getting bent out of shape and causing yourself more grief.
Well, that's true. I mean, you know, you and I both have our benefits, and the thing is, it was not, for me, there was no road sign going, follow this path, young man, we'll take care of you. I could say, you know, I'm not pointing any fingers or blaming, because the one thing I did learn in the military was accountability. But but there was nobody really advertising to me. And once you were out, you kind of get this feeling like you're gone. You can no longer come on the base, get on the ship, talk to anybody over the fence, whatever,
Right. You're like, to me, you're like, hey, you're not one of us anymore. Type feeling is what we didn't know nothing about veterans clubs back then, and of course we didn't have cell phones or anything or social media like they do now to say, hey, I'll keep in touch with you. You may live 1,000 miles away. I can still hook up with you. We can meet up a couple times a year. We didn't have that back then. If you didn't have a cell phone number or a landline number with your name in the white pages or whatever, you were toast. If you didn't have that address and you weren't stable, you lost contact, and that's what happened with a lot of this. And thanks to social media now, which can be either a good thing or it can be really evil, as we know. But it worked really well for us because we all got hooked back up, and it allowed us all to share our stories and get back in touch with the good times and some of the bad times. Got to take care of that too. But back then we didn't have that, and when we fell off after about a year not talking to each other, we did lose contact for a while, and that kind of hurt too. That hurt.
Well, that was what you're talking about, Greg. I mean, when the technology was not advanced, I bounced jobs because I didn't know where I fit in the world. I bounced jobs and apartments. I went through a divorce the day my ex-wife, my first wife, was divorcing me the day I got out of the Navy. She met a guy with more money. That's what it was, because she didn't think I would do well in the workforce. And, I'm like, thanks, bye, see ya. I was ready for her to be gone anyway, so that makes out. But ultimately, me trying to keep in touch with you and your phone number, and you're bouncing from one place to another, and I'm bouncing, it's going to be kind of hard that everybody lines up on the same day with the same phone number, and people did fall out of touch, and everybody. And then, thanks to Facebook, we had that reunion, and it was 1988 again. You know what I mean? But with wisdom,
Yes, that cruise was awesome, by the way. Oh, I'd like to do that again.
Yeah.
Party. But if you didn't have an email set with AOL, you're pretty much a done deal.
Right.
Yeah, if you didn't have an AOL account with an email, or somebody could send you, you got mail.
That's true. That's true. I mean, we lived in an era when, the biggest thing, and I talked to another sailor that was a little older than us. He's like, you had to know how to dance. That's how you met ladies. And it's funny. I go, yeah, we were really into dancing. My wife, she's younger than me, but she's like, wow, you can dance. I go, yeah, I had to develop that skill. I didn't learn it in high school.
It just came though. I don't know. We were good dancers. We were the dancing crew, man.
We didn't have a Corvette or a Rolex or whatever, or a big wallet of cash, but we could dance. And that was half of our social intrigue, I guess. But I don't know. It's interesting to grow up in Indiana. Now you're back there, and me, I hung on to this place for dear life. California is a beautiful and also an evil kind of place. Not evil in that the people are evil, but it's just the price, the cost of living, opportunities are minimal, so you could slip and get kicked out of the state very easily.
I'm looking forward to coming back out and hanging out with my family again, though. You
for
and
sure.
Sonny, John, and all the other guys, Pat and Will Harris and Mike. I can go on and on. There's a few Geo.
Yeah.
There's a few strongholds out there, man. I think good 30 or 40 of you still out there. Dalton.
Yeah, I talk to Dalton every week. We talk about stuff. He's a great guy. And it's interesting to see us as the condition, he was my boss in the Navy. Now we're just guys on the level with each other, which is cool, And, it's like I did his story. He was on 2 ships, and there's a lot of other people. But what is the thing? That's what you miss the most is the relationships, from the Navy?
It does, because it's a big hole. I think it's been a big hole for quite a long while. And like we were talking about, we have an easy access now to communicate better, and that's a blessing. It really is. And that's basically what I use social media for. I don't really dialogue myself too much anymore. When you first get on it, like the Facebook thing, I'm going to eat, I'm going to do this, I'm driving this. No, too many weirdos, so I just use it for getting in contact with family and my friends,
Right on, Greg. That was a great podcast, brother. You know,
Did you cut it off?
I think so. Everybody that loves us, share it with your friends and follow us on Facebook. I'm getting a lot of listeners. This is somebody's daily, weekly thing. Not daily, but weekly thing. They love listening to the podcasts, and this is for you guys, you know.